Nope. That would be the run. Fuck my life. Oh my god, dude. This is not even hard to get the ticks you need for this. It's the first time I've ever hit that last act. This went wrong in so many ways to cost 214. My third act was bad, ticks going into the solo were mediocre, but really what killed 214 was the fifth act, because of a bizarre aspect of how the sustain acts work. The game automatically inputs a whammy when you unpause. So the ideal execution is to hit that front end as early as possible and then unpause and wait a few frames to accumulate some more star power to make sure you don't lose a bunch of ticks on the back end. But this run, even though, like always, I'm trying to be very conscious of it, I activated the note really late. And that just cost me the whammy that I needed to, again, not drop them on the back end. But you really don't have many frames to play with on that act and that execution because you need a specific amount of ticks, like 40-ish, coming out of that front end, or else you have no chance of getting 214. So yeah, just a bunch of little things added up to kill this run. I mean, it's still a first by over 200, so that's cool, but that wasn't the main motivation for this. And I'm doing this whole discussion here because I'm going to keep trying for this, but I really have no idea if I'm going to be able to put this all together. Holy shit! Let's fucking go! Let's go! God, this path is fucked up. Thankfully, that did not even take 15 minutes past that run that I missed it by 11. This is not very good on this path, but I honestly do not give a shit. Being able to find 214k on this, you know, obviously without the upper bound, which from my TAS was impossible, is awesome. Definitely the only way this was happening, whether or not that upper bound is possible, if it's like frame perfect, like a Heart Full of Blacks. Really surprised I did not have any chokes on that back end. You can hit that very early for some reason. It just lined up in such a way, I guess, with the strike line. And just for comparison's sake, like I said, the upper bound was impossible in TAS with essentially the same whammy as this nearly ideal last act. And this nearly ideal last act with the adjustment back to the green-yellow was a 6-frame window, and it's still hard as fuck. You know, that's just how much multiple reset / fresh whammies eat into a activation's frame window. Now, to be fair / honest, that last act's difficulty is very inflated due to A, where it is in the song, and B, on this particular path after not only the second act double, but the obnoxious Dualshock act. And speaking of that, that should be the last time I ever have to use that Dualshock act. I don't think there's any other paths in the game that use it, at least, you know, that we know about, because the paths for this game are probably the least accurate in the series, just due to how many exploits and quirks there are with the Star Power engine. But yeah, I think it's just this 5th act Nearly Ideal and the 3rd act in Killer Queen. It's at least all I can recall at the moment. So that's another reason I'm super glad to have gotten this. The other thing that I just learned recently, I've pretty much only used my PS2s for Guitar Hero games. We just didn't have the console until the end of the generation, already had an Xbox. So yeah, we just didn't have many other PS2 games. Anyway, point is, I didn't actually remember what the DualShock 2 looked like. I didn't remember if it had like a Sony logo at the top. Obviously it does. But why I'm bringing this up is that this DualShock I've been using is apparently a shitty off-brand, which I just realized because I was having some really inconsistent inputs, and the build quality just didn't feel right. Yeah, all the shoulder buttons were just like real like shaky and just did not feel good to input. So I was visiting my brother the other day, and I have his PS2 borrowed so I could swap between the practice ISO and the vanilla game easier and faster when I was still using that, instead of having to like load free McBoot, blah blah blah, go through the whole boot up, takes forever. And while I was over at his place, I saw his DualShock 2, and I realized that I think accidentally he took the official one, and yeah, I didn't even realize that this DualShock I was using was, like I said, some shitty off-brand. So in the grand scheme of things, did it matter? Probably not, but I don't know. Like I said, the shoulder button inputs did not feel right on this thing. I just didn't know what the OEM felt like and had nothing to compare it to. But anyway, that's just a funny little side story, I guess. And all the more reason I'm glad to be done with these DualShock acts. And as for that Act 2 double, this tempo is pretty low, like in the 140s. So I knew there was a good chance, even if it was possible, it'd be frame perfect. And that ended up being the case on every note that I tried the adjustment on, except that last yellow, just because it was lined up perfectly with the strike line, where none of the other notes were. So if it weren't for finding that adjustment through TAS, this would not have happened. No way in hell I would be willing or able to grind out a frame perfect double with good enough ticks, and especially that last act. So yeah, a lot of things had to come together to make 214k on this happen. This is one of the weirdest and most difficult paths that I've performed.